Chapter 25. Tommy stared at Rhea. She looked back at him, and the tall man entered behind him. "Gotcha," he said, his thick London accent filling the air with menace. Taken aback by the re-emergence of Fat Tommy, she stepped backwards. The tall man entered the building. His neat appearance didn't compare to Tommy's, and Rhea wondered why they would even hang out together. He was wearing a black full-length trench coat, which covered a dark blue suit and waistcoat, white shirt and tie. The man was cleanly shaven, except for a neatly trimmed moustache with tiny curls at the end. His shiny black Italian leather shoes radiated wealth and an upper-class upbringing, making him a very sophisticated-looking gent. His eyes and full head of hair made him look a lot younger than the moustache would allow him to be. "Where is your friend, the one who ruined my holiday home?" asked the man, pulling out a gold pocket watch from his waistcoat pocket and then checking the time. Rhea stood, stunned, not knowing what to say. She stared at the basement door. I don't know," she said, turning her gaze to the tall man, trying not to give Zac's location away. "I haven't got all day. Tell me, or there will be consequences." He snapped the clasp shut on his gold pocket watch and put it back into his waistcoat, then reached into his trench coat and pulled out a weird-looking weapon that looked like some sort of stun gun. At that moment, the basement door opened and all three looked straight at Zac. He was taken completely by surprise. "Get over here," urged the tall man, waving the weird gun at him. "I thought you said you killed him," he said to the fat man. Tommy's face tightened up in anger. I did, but he's back, and he tried to kill me." "I wasn't trying to kill you. I was trying to stop you from shooting her," he said, looking at Rhea. Zac walked across the lobby towards her, thoughts racing. The plan to find his father was far from his mind, and the safety of the lab assistant, who had now become a good friend, was on his list of top priorities right now. Tommy pulled his revolver from his jacket pocket and pointed it at Zac. "Can I shoot him now?" he asked. Zac said nothing, and Rhea's face dropped. "Put it away, Tommy. I've got other plans for these two," said the tall man. The tall man aimed the weird gun at Zac and pulled the trigger. The gun made a quiet noise, and Zac felt something hit him in the chest. What followed was something he didn't quite expect. He looked down, expecting to see blood. There was nothing there. "You missed," he said mockingly. The tall man stayed quiet for a moment with a smile growing on his face. Then he shot Rhea as well. In the moments that followed, some strange things happened. The place where he had been shot became warm, and Zac felt something he couldn't explain. "What did you do to me?" he asked. The tall man put his fingers to his mouth. "Stop talking, please." Zac tried to open his lips to speak, and although the words were there and his mouth was moving, nothing happened. He panicked and decided to make a run for it, grabbing Rhea's arm, then headed for the front door. "Stop running and stay exactly where you are," the tall man commanded. Both Rhea and Zac involuntarily stopped running and just remained glued to the spot. "You're probably wondering what's happening right now," the tall man commented. "This got him stumped," said Tommy. Zac and Rhea just stood there. "These are nano bullets. From the moment they hit you, they navigate through your clothing, skin, arteries and veins, and they control your nerves, muscle, auditory and brain functions. You are both now completely under my control." Voice-controlled morons, said the fat man with a big grin on his face. You both have to do whatever he tells you to. Walk through that door, said the tall man as he waved the gun. Realizing they had no choice, and with involuntary actions, Rhea and Zac reluctantly walked through the staff-only door and headed down a narrow corridor to the room at the end. Hurry, we ain't got all day, Tommy said, limping behind them, blood dripping from his leg. The door of the office opened, and they both noticed the smell of cigar smoke in the air. There was an empty chair in the left corner, and a large table in the middle of the room. Behind the table sat Zac's father, in an executive leather chair, with a large cigar in his mouth. Good job on catching them, he said, looking at both men. Mike Drummond stood up from his chair, puffed on his cigar, and blew out a large plume of smoke. He looked at them as they entered the office. Zac looked back at him, memories flooding back from his childhood, but none of them was about the man in front of him. His father was kind and loving, someone who liked to wear a t-shirt and jeans, a non-smoker. This man, however, was mean-looking, with a cigar and henchmen. Zac remembered how his father was always at the office, but never said much about his work. He was really surprised that his dad could pull off this other life, without any of them knowing, back at the family home. Zac looked at the table. It was covered in blueprints of the dam. Answer the boss's questions, said the tall man. Allow me to introduce myself. My name is Michael Drummond. These are Fat Tommy and Colby Spencer Hall, my associates. Now, who are you? He asked, looking at Rhea. I'm Sharon Gillespie, and this is, she paused, my cousin Brad. Tommy looked straight at Zac and pointed. He's the guy I killed. That guy drove into my house, said Colby. He tried to kill me? Tommy glared at Zac. And I gave you that tourniquet, replied Rhea. Is that true? Asked Mike. Yes. But he had just grabbed Rhea and... Zac stopped, realizing his mistake in saying Rhea's name. Tommy looked at Rhea. I thought you said your name was Sharon, he said, with a menacing scowl. Rhea? Rhea Elizabeth Beckman, Eric's niece? I thought I recognized you, Mike said with a smile. You know my uncle? She asked, dropping her guard. Tommy looked straight at Mike. Boss, you know this girl? It's been a while, but I met her uncle a few times back in the day. Colby turned his head to Zac. So, Cousin Brad, who are you? Zac stared at the table. Blueprints of the dam and a lump of C4 were enough evidence to prove to him who was really behind this. His father. But why? Remembering back to the lady from the PHPC, he picked out the first name he could think of. My name is Agent Santel, and I'm from the government. I'm here to take you all in for the bombing of the Hayworth Dam, he said with a cheeky smile. And where, pray tell, is your gun and badge? Asked Colby. How the hell does the government know? Asked Tommy to Colby. They don't. He's faking it. He doesn't even have a gun, snapped Colby. Be a good chap and fetch something to tie these two up with. A few minutes later, Tommy came back with some rope. Want me to do them, boss? Tommy asked Mike. Too messy, replied Mike. We should tie them up and let the flood take them. Mike left the room, a cloud of cigar smoke following him, and Tommy put the chairs together, back to back, as Colby monitored Rhea and Zac, waving the gun now and then to remind them it was still in his hand. Rhea was first. He ordered her to sit down, and her wrists were bound to the arms of the chair. While Tommy tied her legs to the chair, she kicked out at the man. Tommy backed off, a bit shaken, and pulled the gun out of his pocket. "Please try that again. I'd love an excuse to shoot your little friend here." Rhea looked up and froze. No, please don't," she cried in fear. Zac walked over to the vacant chair and sat down. "Back to back? Bound and gagged? This all seems a bit cliché," he said as Tommy tied their arms and legs together. "I wouldn't worry about it. This is the easiest bit. Wait until that dam bursts," he said with a smirk. "Then you'll get what's coming to you." The men left. The door closed and a key rattled in the lock. Zac looked around him. Amidst the smoke, he couldn't see anything in the room that would help them. The only things in the room were the table and chairs they were sitting on. A picture on the wall of how the old cinema used to look like in the old days, and a bunch of rolled up papers on the floor. Zac, still under the influence of the nano bullets, imagined scenarios where he somehow had super strength and could snap himself out of the ropes, and then use the glass in the cinema picture to cut the ropes that held Rhea. He also considered the possibility that he could move the picture with his mind, willing it to fly off the wall, the glass magically cutting the ropes, freeing them both. Zac stared at the picture. He willed it to move. Nothing happened. Wriggling behind him, Rhea had freed the gag from her mouth. "Are you okay?" she asked. Zac, still trying to move the picture with his mind, broke his concentration and tried to muster a reply, but a muffled "urgle-gurgle" just came out instead. She moved her head to help, but they were both so tightly bound she only succeeded in banging her head against his. Zac gave a muffled "ouch" noise and pulled his head away from hers to prevent it from happening again. "If you bend your head towards your chin, you might be able to loosen the strap around your mouth," she said. He wriggled, and the gag gained enough space to slide down his face. "Thanks," he replied. She looked around the room. "Got any ideas now?" He considered they both think about telekinetically moving the picture off the wall, but decided against it. "Nothing comes to mind," he replied. They went quiet for a moment, and Rhea asked, "What was it like? Time travel?" There isn't much to tell. I lie down on the table in the lab and wake up moments later. It's a bit like going in a lift. You enter the lift on one floor, then exit on another floor, and everything's changed." "But what about pain, or smells, or—" "Well, I get pain because of the needles. I can smell bacon all the time, and I just don't understand why." "The pain is because of the needles, and the bacon smell is because you are created from reconstituted ovine DNA." "I'm what?" he asked with a confused look on his face. "The process we use is to clone pigs to help solve the food crisis," she replied, shifting herself on the seat to get comfortable. "But somehow you travelled from the future and—" "Wait, so you're saying I'm made from pig DNA?" he said with a disgusted tone in his voice. "No wonder I always smell bacon." "Ovine DNA is the closest to human DNA, which is why we use it to grow organs for human transplants. You're the first whole human ever created, and somehow it happened using our machine." She tried to wriggle more, hoping it would loosen the ropes and help them escape. "Try to twist to your left a bit," said Rhea. He twisted, and the ropes tightened even more. "This isn't working." "And to the right," she suggested. "I can't see that working either, but it's got to be better than telekinesis," he remarked. "What?" "Nothing." He wriggled, she wriggled, and the chairs wobbled. In a moment of pure genius, he piped up, "I've got an idea. Let's rock the chairs over and hopefully they will smash against the floor." She agreed, and they rocked the chairs left to right until they became off balance, and the chairs crashed to the floor with Rhea and Zac banging their heads together. "Damn it, I bit my lip. I can even taste the bacon," he commented. The chairs, still in one piece, hadn't even cracked or splintered, holding their shape as they had done since they were built. "So what do we do now, Brains?" she said sarcastically. "How am I supposed to know? You're the one who works in a lab," he replied. "But it was your bright idea," she replied. "Arguing will not get us anywhere." He tugged on the rope and the smell of bacon got stronger. Something smushed and his chair jerked an inch lower to the floor. "What are you doing?" asked Rhea. "I'm trying to get us out of here. What do you think I'm—" His voice changed to a more gravelly tone, and he spit out some blood onto the floor. "What is that?" he shouted in fear. "How should I know?" she asked sarcastically. "I don't have eyes in the back of my head." The chair lurched again, and Zac's head hit the floor with a squelching sound. He tried to speak, but only gurgle came out of his mouth. Rhea's face felt a weird sensation of wetness, and she couldn't understand where it had come from. "Have you—" She started to ask, but was interrupted by the stench of bacon now coming from behind her. There was a loud squelching sound, the ropes slackened, Zac's chair dropped to the floor, and Rhea was splashed by a viscous, reddish-coloured fluid. The stench of bacon became prominent in such a way that it resembled the odour that a skunk would spray, and Rhea knew that this smell wasn't going away soon. She wriggled free from the ropes and looked at the mess on the floor. Zac was nowhere to be seen, and all that remained were the chairs, rope, and the ovine goo. She grabbed the door handle and ran out of the door into the darkness.